Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Today we'll be talking about critical appraisal. So before we proceed, I think it's very important to remind you that a journal article that is published online or in print are not perfect. That's why critical appraisal is needed to evaluate the quality of the articles that you are reading. So I guess most of you have no experience in study publishing. So I think we need to know why scientific articles are being published in the first place. So the first and foremost reason why scientific articles are being published is the scientists want to share their research findings and opinion to a worldwide community. They also want to contribute to knowledge pool to fill the scientific knowledge gap. Secondly, the scientists are hoping that by publishing their articles, they are able to change policy. For example, if you detect that a treatment algorithm for a certain disease is not perfect in a community in research, so to improve the algorithm of treatment and management of disease, you hope that your article will be recognized by the government, by the Ministry of Health, and thereby changing the policy on management of certain disease, and you improve the patient health. Sometimes the requirement to publish just arises from the need to fill the requirement of research grant. And lastly, scientists who want to leave a legacy by publishing their findings. Everyone will recognize or to know the names of a Nobel Prize winner, right? And this is the meaning of leaving a legacy. So it takes a lot of time to write an article, to get the data, to write articles, and also to arrive at the final stage of publications. So this is a typical timeline or pipeline of publishing a scientific article, whereby a researcher completes a research project, conducts analysis, writing up their results, and then they will send the result for internal review by their superiors or by the supervisors, and then they will submit the writing to a journal article. It will undergo peer review by external reviewer, and then they will receive a comment and they will revise the manuscript according to the comment provided by the peer reviewer. And then if the peer reviewer are satisfied with the comment, they will accept the journal articles, the manuscript, and it will be arranged for publications by the journal. The journal house will typically send a gallery proof to the authors, and when the author is satisfied with the gallery proof, and it will be sent for publications. So the estimated completion time for this process is around 3 to 6 months. However, we live in a world less than ideal. Okay, so sometimes it may take more than 6 months to publish a scientific article. Okay, there will be barriers from the author itself, the lack of motivation, procrastinations, and writing out the results. There will be barriers from the internal reviewer, whereby your superiors or supervisors keep the papers forever, take time to review because all the lecturers are busy. And after submitting to a journal, there may be no peer reviewer who want to review a journal because everyone is busy, and when finally someone finds a mercy to review your articles, you may receive harsh comments from the experts. There are some comments that will be impossible to answer, but however get the wits to answer them. It will be sent for a second peer review, and sometimes your article will be rejected. Or if you're lucky enough to be accepted, sometimes print the journal keep your papers forever, especially those who are in print, because your articles or manuscript need to be queued for issues. Okay, because some journal only publish 4 issues a year, so your manuscript will have to be waited to be queued into the subsequent issue to be published. So sometimes it can take up 1 year to publish a scientific article. So I would expect you to have some experience in searching or reading some scientific article. I know that you have undergone some research project in your community medicines module. So can anyone tell me the difference between a journal, a publisher, and a search engine? Okay, so a journal is usually a magazine that deals with a specific topic or professions. For example, you have encountered these names: Nature, Science, BMJ, Journal of Osteoporosis, Lancet. And these are journals, which is a magazine that gather manuscript, okay, according to a specific topic or profession. Publisher, on the other hand, is a company that publishes and sells collections of journals. For example, Elsevier, Wiley, Sage, Hindawi, Mohammed Central, there are a lot more. Okay, these are company, okay, that publish a variety of journals, okay. And search engine is an indexing service which allow users to search across all journals published by different publisher. For example, PubMed, Google Scholar, Scopus, Ovid, and Web of Science and Web of Knowledge. And these are like a Google for scientists, but they only deal with some scientific articles. So my question to you is, where is the best site for you to search for a particular topic? Let's say you are given a research topic by your supervisors, okay? And where's the best site to search for a particular previous work that has been done on topic? Is it a single journal? Is it a publisher platform, or is it a search engine? Okay. For me, I would recommend you to search the search engine because it search across the publisher and across many journals. And what about different type of scientific articles that you encounter? Okay, what are the difference between research article, review, letters, and case report? I hope that you have encountered all these different type of publications, okay, in your reading. So research article is a detailed report of research activity and findings written by scientists who perform the research. And review is an assessment of a topic of interest which include all relevant previous studies done on that topic. And the letter is a commentary written to the editor to highlight article published by the journal or current issues. And case report is a scientific documentations of single clinical observations. Okay. So now that you know what's the difference between a journal, a publisher, and a search engine, the different type articles, now we want to introduce you what are the essential components of original research article. Okay, it can be summarized in a short form called IMRAD. I add a TA in front. So T refers to title, and A refers to abstract, I refers to introductions, M refers to materials method, RA refers to results, and D refers to discussions with conclusions. These are the essential components of an original research article. The format for other type of publications are more relaxed. For example, reviews, you may not have materials methods, okay, you may not have results. And for letters, they may not be subsections at all. And also case report may have a different subsections. But now we just want you to learn at least the essential component of research article. So there are many levels of critical appraisal. In this level, at least we want you to learn about all the essential components, what are required in each of subsections of a original research article. First, we'll go to the title. Title is a short phrase that summarizes the paper. It should contain, for clinical or medical articles, it should contain the study design, target group, intervention use, primary outcome measures. Okay, for example, a title: a randomized clinical blinded trial, a randomized double-blinded clinical trial on the effect of relaxants on fracture risk among elderly women. So, can you tell me the component inside this title? What study design is a randomized double-blinded clinical trial? the target group is elderly women. Intervention used in relapsants, and also the primary outcome measures actually fracture risk. Okay, so this is a good title because it contains at one glance it tells you what it's about on this origin research article. And these are some the title of some of the publications that we have put forward. Okay, significantly association between parathyroid hormones and uric acid in men. So this is a cross-sectional study, so there is no interventions. However, you can identify the target group, which is men, and the outcome of interest is actually the association between parathyroid hormones and uric acid. Sometimes the title can be more creative, I would say. You can actually put your research question as a title. For example, in this example, sex hormone in Malay and Chinese men in Malaysia, their age and race differences, and this is the title in the form of research questions, and those readers who are interested in research questions will read further. After title, we have abstract. Abstract is actually a single paragraph containing 300 words. Structure and unstructured. In the structure abstract, you will see background that it is being divided into subsections, for example, background aim, methods, result, and conclusions. In the unstructured abstract, there will be no subheading at all, but all these essential components are listed in one single paragraph. So this is an example of structure abstract. You can see that the paragraph is being divided into background and aim, methods, results, and also conclusions. You see me circle the p-value because sometimes it's quite essential for the readers to know the p-values in the result to determine whether your result is significant or not. And this is the example of unstructured abstract. You can see that there's no subheading at all. However, all the essential component of abstract is contained in this abstract. So there's no rules in writing abstracts apart from having all the essential components inside. The determinations of the requirement for unstructured abstract actually depends on the journal itself. So when the authors were to write abstract for a manuscript, he or she will need to refer to author guideline and journal to decide whether the journal require a structured or unstructured abstract. Next is keywords. Okay. Usually the requirement for keywords for the manuscript is actually to widen the search results. Okay. So the keyword should not be the same words that appear in the title. Okay. So if the journal title is vitamin D status in Malaysian men, the keyword will be hydroxy vitamin D, which is a synonym for vitamin D. Okay. Calcium, which is related to the biological functions of vitamin D. Osteoporosis, which is a result of vitamin D deficiency, and superthyroid, which is also related to biological actions of vitamin D. So when interested audience search the PubMed, for example, vitamin D and osteoporosis, this keyword will guide the readers or audience to your articles. That's why your title, the keyword that you use should not be the same as the word in the title because it will be a waste of space. Okay, and it also limit the search results or the searchability of your article. Usually there's a guideline for selecting particular keywords. You can Google MESH, MESH, or a website for appropriate keywords. So introductions. Next, we go to introductions. Introduction is essentially to provide a brief background on the topic of interest. Usually, it consists of the definitions of a medical problem, of a disease, and also magnitude of the problem. Magnitude of the problem means that why should we care about this problem? Is it very prevalent among a particular populations? Is it very costly to treat the disease? And also, thirdly, it should also introduce what are similar studies conducted on this topic and construct a brief summary of the studies discussed in the discussions. Okay. So usually this might be a bit confusing to you because usually as an author when we write the manuscript we actually construct discussion first before we start construct introductions. So in the discussion you will have introduced you have compared your result with the previous finding. However, you should also introduce some of the previous result in your introduction sections to let the readers know what have been done on this topic and what is new about your study. Okay, and then finally, what is research gap that is your study is trying to a particular study is trying to breach. Okay, and lastly is the objective of the study. Okay, just to give an example using the title that we introduced you just now, vitamin D level or vitamin D deficiencies among Malaysian men. Okay, so in the introduction you should have introduced the readers the definition of vitamin D deficiency, and the main thing of the problem is that vitamin D deficiency can lead to a lot of diseases including hypercalcemia, osteoporosis. It might be related to some neurological and also mood depressions and other diseases. And what are the effort previously done to address the issues of vitamin D deficiency among Malaysian men? Is there any similar study being conducted before? You should list out studies in your introductions. And then it's very important to use for you to highlight also why particular studies on these studies you are reading is different from all the previous studies being conducted on vitamin D deficiency in men. And the last paragraph of the introduction should introduce you the objective of the study. Okay, so usually begin with a sentence. For example, this paper or this manuscript aim to discuss or aim to investigate and determine the prevalence of vitamin D deficiency among Malaysian men in Malaysia, something like that. Okay. So the subsequent sections is on materials and method. So in materials method, the author should provide detailed experiment procedure to allow replications of the study. So replication is a very important aspect of science. So whatever you have introduced or you have studied should be able to be replicated by other researchers in other part of the world. And that's why your materials method is very important. Some of the very important components in materials method include subject characteristic, if you are dealing with populations, interventional trial, observation studies, detailed measurements procedures, details and instruments used, and statistical analysis strategy. Okay, in the materials method, usually we use passive voice and past tense. So the materials method should be written following the logical flow of experiments. For example, in the cross-section studies, usually we start with recruitment of the subjects, administrations of questionnaire, or blood sample collections. So if you're collecting blood samples or clinical biopsy, it will be subject to lab tests, and then we perform statistical analysis. For animal studies, usually we begin with treatment of animals, then we euthanize them and harvest the samples, followed by lab tests and statistical analysis. For cell culture studies, usually we begin with culture and treatment of cells, harvesting of the samples, lab tests, and also statistical analysis. So for the subsequent sections on the results, result is summary of the outcome of experiments. Usually, quantitative results are presented in figures and table. In the presentation result, or even in the methods and materials, we use standardized terms. For example, biological species refers to nomenclature and taxonomy. For drugs, we use generic names. For chemistry names or chemical names, we use alphabet names. And for unit of measurements, we use international system or units. Okay, and it's very important to provide p-value as well, because sometimes the term significant difference or significant lower or higher may be just adjective, the word significance is adjective. So it's very important for you to include p-values in your results. The result should be written in a very objective, clear, and concise manner. Okay, you should avoid any use of adjective. For example, this example, figure 3 clearly showed that approximately 3/4 of subjects suffer from Prader-Willi syndrome. So I highlight the word clearly and approximately because they are adjective, and you should avoid them in your results. So a better way of writing this sentence should be 75% of subjects are recruited suffer from Prader-Willi syndrome. Okay, it could be 75.5 to 75.6. Okay, but we prefer exact number rather than approximate 3/4. Okay. So in the result sections, you are going to encounter a lot of tables and figures, and that those tables and figures should be labeled correctly and presented correctly. So these are the essential components of table. For example, you have title, you have the variable interest, accompanied by the unit of measurements. Okay, you can see that for the BMI, the kg over meter squared is not superscript. Okay, for the value, usually it is presented in min and also SD for the SEM for continuous data, or median or interquartile range for skewed data. You should also indicate the significance. In this instance, actually we prefer the real p-value of the comparisons. And also underneath the table and the footnote, you will list out all the abbreviation used for the table and the legends. For figures, some of the essential components include title, and also depending on the type of figures you're presenting, you will have axes with labels. Okay, and also there are indications of variations in terms of let's say if you're presenting a bar chart, there will be a marginal error presented in terms of error bar. If you have a pie chart, maybe there's no marginal error presented in the pie chart. Okay, and there should be indications of significance as well in your figures. And there are legends, and also to explain what is the meaning of the alphabets or symbols used in your figures. And there might be abbreviations if abbreviations are being used in the figures. Okay, so let's have a quick look at this table. What's wrong with this table? Well, you might notice that there's no unit of measurements in the variable interest listed here. Okay, so this is an area improvement for this table. Okay, you can see that the results are presented in min and SD, and also in median interquartile range. Okay, meaning that these parameters are actually continuous and normally distributed, and these parameters are actually continuous but skewed. That's why median would better represent a central tendency of the data. Okay, did the author indicate what is the meaning of these stars? Okay, it's indicated in the legends, whereby the stars indicate significant differences between Malay and Chinese subject. And what is wrong with these figures? Well, one obvious fault that you can find is that there's no title. Okay, the figures actually depict the SSBG level according to age in Chinese and Malay man. This is not listed as a title. The legend is a bit blurry, it's a bit small. Okay, the axis is also a bit small, but it's still readable. There's no indications of significant differences, but if you read the text itself, maybe that there's no significant differences between the SSBG level between Malay and Chinese men. Okay, so you have to refer back to the text to determine whether the lack of marking of significance result is because there's no significant result at all, or is because the authors forgot to mark it in the figures. Then we arrive at the discussions. Discussion is actually an opportunity for the author to explain their findings to the readers. Okay, so in the discussion, they will compare and contrast their current finding with the previous study to find the similarities and discrepancies. Okay, so a good discussions should have a balance between summary of studies that is in agreement or in contrast with the current findings. Okay, this is to provide a fair comparisons. The discussion also offers explanation of the reason of discrepancy. Okay, let's say the result of the current studies is quite controversial, it's quite different from the previous studies. Discussion itself provides an opportunity for the authors to explain to the readers why their results are different from the previous studies. Some of the source of variations, for example, to explain the differences between the result of the current study with the previous finding, include subject, because each study will have recruit different subject of different ethnicity, gender, or age. It could be because of differences or variations in the samples. Okay, because the studies will use different species of animals or cell lines. Okay, some of the source of variation include experiment protocol, for example, reagents, treatment methods, and instrument used to do the measurements. And it could be due to the meta-analysis, okay, power and sample size, okay, because the number of subjects in studies are different, okay, because the difference of the observed because the difference in the observed differences between two groups, okay, in comparisons to the previous studies. All of this could have contributed to the differences between the current study and the previous study, and this should be explained in the discussions. And also, some authors would prefer to offer explanations on the observations obtained. Okay, for example, mechanism actions. Okay, for example, in the title that we discussed just now, maybe observe a significant lower bone mineral density status in those in Malaysian men with deficiency in vitamin D. Okay, so although the authors do not investigate the mechanism of actions of vitamin D on bone, but he may draw inspiration from previous in vivo studies to explain why did vitamin D deficiency affect bone health adversely. Okay, all the explanation given should be plausible, okay, not too far-fetched. And towards the last two paragraphs of the discussion, usually the authors will offer limitations because all scientific studies are not perfect. They are limited by the constraint in budgets, manpower, okay, or the populations. So mostly all the scientific studies have their own limitations, and they should alert the audience regarding to the limitation of the studies. Okay, usually it's written in one single paragraph stating that no study is perfect, and these are the limitations that the audience should pay attention to. Okay, limitation include anything that will prevent the generalizations of the study findings. Okay, for example, if in observation studies, non-randomized samplings are adopted. For example, convenient samplings are adopted in sample size in subject recruitment. This should be listed as part of limitations because non-randomized sampling would prevent generalizations of results. If you only samples Malay or Chinese men who visit HQ camp for observation studies, obviously this study will have difficulty in generalizations to the populations of whole Malaysia. Okay, and the authors might also indicate methods to improve the studies in the limitation paragraph. Okay, for example, in our studies, vitamin D in Malaysian men, although we didn't characterize some molecular pathway that, as I said, vitamin D deficiency and bone mineral density in men's health, maybe in the further study, we should characterize the molecular pathway, which vitamin D deficiency cause abnormal bone health. Okay, and sometimes it's a bad idea to end your discussion in limitation because it leaves a very bad impression to all readers on how bad your study is. So sometimes we will have a rescue paragraph to highlight again to the readers what are the novelty or clinical significance of the studies of one studies. Okay, also in one paragraph or in combination in the limitation paragraph to remind the readers again why a particular study is still clinically relevant or important despite all limitations. And finally, on conclusions. Conclusions is a place where the authors generalize the findings of the studies. Okay. Usually, it also offers suggestions for future studies. Example of the conclusions listed follow. Okay, you can see look at this paragraph. Although vitamin D deficiencies are common in Malaysian men, a significant proportion of men are suffering from vitamin D insufficiency. Men of Malay ethnicity of a younger age having high BMI and a sedentary lifestyle at high risk of having low serum vitamin D level. And these are the general findings of the study. Okay, so but this alone is not complete. The authors also complement the general finding with a suggestion. How would one utilize the finding of the study to improve human's life? Okay, so steps should be taken to prevent the progression of vitamin D insufficiency in its associated health problem. Okay, and this is the recommendations or take-home message of the audience, the authors to the readers. There are other sections in the original research article that one should pay attention to in critical appraisal. Okay, so conflict of interest. Okay, aspect that will interfere in the interpretation of the study. For example, if one or the authors are from a pharmaceutical company in a clinical trial, okay, so you should be careful because if the authors are being paid royalties by the clinical trial company or the drug company to conduct the study, the financial repayment itself could make the authors to unwillingly or willingly to conduct biases in their study, okay, to generate more favorable results and things like that. Okay, acknowledgement, the grants. Okay, usually we have to acknowledge the grants and all individuals who assisted in the study. Okay, and references, it should be always updated and relevant. So these are all the essential components for original research article. So I would recommend you take some break, and we'll come back later on the proper sections of critical appraisals.